This is TJ Delaney from the Lost Sheep of Jesus. Today's date is the 15th day, the 3rd month, 2025. And in this video, I'll be going over why I left Mary's Little Remnant, led by Richard Ibranyi, the leader of Mary's Little Remnant. I was with them up until from about the years 2020, maybe in 2019, up to 2025. I left there this year, St. Bridget's Day, and the following week there was an incident on St. Bridget's Day. And then the following week, what manifested to me was this place is completely riddled with devils. I just want to say off the bat that Richard has the faith, he just doesn't practice it. They are a cult because they idolize Richard, and Richard idolizes himself. I came to realize that. In the past, I never had any big issues other than biting my tongue. This guy's very brash, like a bull in a china shop. Is that how you deal with things? Stuff like that, but mostly biting my tongue, misunderstanding me quite a lot. He's a very bad communicator at times, and just I've never been misrepresented more times in my life. But I just bite my tongue most of the time. Um, but yeah, they have the faith absolutely. They're Sedevacantists, so they reject Anti-Pope Francis. They go back to 1130. 99% of Sedevacantists go back to Vatican II when we had their last true pope. Richard and his group go back to 1130, which is correct from the information available, as do I. And yeah, again, I have no problem with the profession of faith except for obedience to Richard, of course. So we believe in the same things. Now, I know Richard is an idolater. He's also a heretic on different issues, and also a mortal sinner, and he's obstinate also, as I've shown him proof where he's lying or he's committing a what else have I shown him? Sorry, I was mostly showing him his sins, but I'm pretty sure because I was contacting one or two of his group that they relayed to him his heresies, in particular non-judgmentalism, which is a heresy when you reject judging somebody. So that's a heresy. And idolatry, he absolutely detests justice. It's manifest to me now, as I'll go through in this video. And what goes along with that is he won't allow somebody to defend themselves. When you try to admonish him, he completely ignores you. He tells people to delete your messages. And for all he knows, I mean, I could have heresies and good accusations against him, things that are between him and God, that'll send him to hell. But he's telling people to delete my messages, all the rest. One video I'll be adding on here is just demonstrable proof where Richard lies obstinately. That video is the late incident with Richard. Now, yeah, I'll be posting these videos on St. Patrick's Day 2025. There'll be like 4 of them, I'd say. Just to capture the vibe, though, I don't want to give the impression. Yeah, I was happy with them, let's say. I never had any huge issues. In fact, I went to visit them there last October. It went very well, very pleasant, all the rest. Nothing major happens. In fact, in the whole 5 years, nothing major happens in terms of big issues I had with them or anything like that. Just to capture the vibe, let me see here. I have a video of when I met Richard first. Oh, yeah, actually, I showed a picture first. So this is, I visited them. This is the official pictures on Richard's website. That's myself there. That's Richard and the others. I'd say about half the congregation are there. Most people live across the world. The place was kind of stagnant before I joined. Just kind of them keeping to themselves. And then I set up Discord, which is a social media platform where people can share content, socialize, and we meet up for the Lord's Day. That's predominantly where everybody meets up to socialize and contact. And yeah, Lord's Day lectures, holy days, all the rest of it. Now, yeah, and once I joined, I brought a good few people onto the site. Some of them fell away. One of my focuses is evangelization. Unfortunately, some fell away, but that happens, not unexpected. Yeah, and then things got more vibrant. People across the world started joining up, and it's pretty vibrant now. I'd have to say now, since that point in time. Anyway, I got to visit them finally after about 4 or 5 years. I managed to actually meet the guy. I have the video where I met him. Actually, here it is. Here, just gonna mute my mic so there's no background. So.
You guys can lead the way. Lead the way.
Yeah, so they live on a ranch, basically in the middle of the desert in New Mexico. A nice secluded area, beautiful scenery. Actually, New Mexico is very impressive compared to Texas. We took a big drive through from New York down towards New Mexico, long drive. And yeah, New Mexico is a nice place, I have to say. And yeah, they're in the middle of nowhere, and that's nice. And it's kind of like a trailer park, I suppose you could say. But it's nice, very nice, I have to say. Overall, I wouldn't put it down. I'm just going to skip ahead here when I meet Richard. So this is when he pulls up. You can see his car in the background. So this was quite a big moment for me. I mean, when you join this group, the whole world is now behind you. Your own biological family are not, like, they're behind you. This is your true family now, and I'm meeting the leader who has pretty much changed my life completely. So I'm just giving you the vibe, how important this was to me, how I considered all of them actually my true brothers and sisters for years, which was very sad for me when I had to leave. I will do my best to get them out of that idolatrous group. Hopefully, Richard himself converts. Let's see. But anyway, this is the vibes. Let's just play on here.
Right there. He just showed up. There's Brother Richard right there.
No way. Hey!
Now and forever.
First things first. Is he really here? He's for real. Look at him. He's for real. He's for real. Look at Matthew. Praise God's great goodness.
He's a real person, Brother Richard.
Yeah, in person.
He's real.
Yes. Now I know they're not fake. You know?
That's
Yeah,
that.
exactly.
That's
That's a big difference, ain't it?
It's crazy.
Yeah.
It is. When you see it in person. Who was saying that the other day? Somebody.
Yeah, you get the vibes there. Another little one. I think we go into the camp itself with other people there. Again, good vibes. I mean, if you meet them, down to earth people, I have to say. Some of them are stoicy. I have to say, some of them are stoicy. I'll be exposing them. Now, of course, in the last events, they're completely riddled with devils. It's obvious. I'll be proving that. But so is the rest of the world. People can appear very normal. But generally, I just want to portray that good vibes generally when I visited. Here's the next video. This is when I met more of the group inside.
You all good? Set up?
You guys ready?
Good, yeah. You set? All right, we're going to run it. Hey, Brother Phil.
Brother Phil
We
is
got
here.
bad news. All the brothers, they got to go home now. They just got a phone call. It's a shame. They came all the way out here. They just told me to say hello anyway.
Where is he?
Where is he? Where's the Maccabees?
There's one of them.
Where's Phil Maccabees? That's Sister Catherine.
Oh, TJ, welcome.
Hello, Brother Phil.
Hey, brother.
How are you? Good to see you.
Here's Brother Mac.
Where is he?
Brother Mac.
Where is he?
Brother Phil,
Here's a Brother Declan. He's taking pictures.
Hi,
Taking
Sister.
pictures.
How are you?
I'm
Mr. James, my name is Joseph.
welcome.
Great to meet you.
So I can't believe you guys actually made it out here safe and sound too. On top of it, how God was with you all the way. You know when you realize how evil the world is, and then when you achieve a
Rainbow
successful
yesterday.
life,
So
you
see,
gotta
God
thank
is with us.
Really.
just about the worst camera skills in the world, Declan there. But you can see that's the where he does all his lectures from. Maybe I can pick a picture where he has the, yeah, you can see there. There you go. So that there in the background, that's where he does all his lectures from. So it's very surreal to be here for me. I'm watching all these lectures every single week, and good vibes. I mean, yeah. Now, so let's get into this incident. So where do I start here? So I'm just going to leave up that picture. Here's a picture of Richard doing his lectures. Okay, so what happened was we were on St. Bridget's Day. Before the incident, we were talking about moving place. Now, I live in Ireland, and so does Declan and Nicoline. And Matthew, a guy from England, was going to plan to move over to us. And we were planning to move place. And I had a place available for Matthew, and he was going to come over temporarily. And we're going to move to a place, all the rest of it, get a place for the whole community started up in Ireland. Same kind of vibe as what they have in New Mexico. Hopefully self sufficient, all the rest. But that was the plan, and we had different views. I wanted to move down south, and it was the best for the church, and I firmly believe that. I think Richard understands that as well, and so does Declan. But Declan wanted to move up north. Anyway, there was a bit of a kind of a Declan's pushing for up north, I'm pushing for down south, and Richard wanted to settle it online. Now, I didn't want to settle it online. What I wanted to do was what would have been smart was to have a four-way conversation, just the people who were involved. It's about moving home. It's about people living together. It's a big decision, and there are private things to be talked about also. So it's a very big decision. And Richard, all right, I've been saying good things about Richard, but look, he has a lot of just normal faults. Just really, he's a horrendous communicator at times. He's bombastic. He's a bull in a china shop. And it was only that week and the weeks afterwards that it really, really came to surface how bad he really is. Um, but yeah, he decided to have this discussion with everybody online. So we do exorcism prayers once a month, and so this particular day he decided to have this discussion about this new place and moving me from my home and all these things that are big decisions, all the rest hadn't really been hashed out fully, and he's going to make a decision on it. And it's rushing as well. It's the thing, bull in the china shop thing. This rushing into things. Now, at the very start, I said to Richard, I have, um, this is a private discussion, and we should do this privately. Or and halfway through the discussion, I even said, well, we should just have this four-way. There's about 20 people, there's about 15, there's about 10 plus people in the congregation themselves at the community center. Richard is streaming his video. It's on Discord, and there's about 15 people on the chat site itself, what Richard calls it, the chat side Discord. And we're listening in, we're watching the stream, whatever. There's none of them need to know about our details and moving in and moving house and moving me from my place and all the rest. It's absolutely unnecessary. And I'm saying to him, we can do this privately, basically. He ignored that. So this is the first thing that happened. This is the first sin. It was provocation. This is provocation because I asked him to. I have a private issues on this, and I want to talk to you privately. And he ignored that, and he did it before with me. Nothing this serious now, but he's pushing and he's inducing me to talk. This bombastic bull in the china shop thing, pushing me to talk, and he gets me to talk. And like, there's people there who aren't even Catholic. We call them inquirers. I mean, they don't have a clue about any of this. They're completely new people. I don't want private information being put out there on a live video recording with like 25 plus people or so. It's nuts. Who does that, right? And I asked him, yeah, as I said, can we do this privately? And he didn't. So that's provocation. That I was not happy with that, let's say, but he wanted to talk about it. He's going to make a decision on it. Okay, now we're going to have to talk about it. Fine, because I probably could have just stopped. I probably what I should have done is just not talked and then reached out to him afterwards and says, "Look, I'm not talking about this stuff online, whatever." just have a just have a voice chat, a phone call between the four of us. That would have made the most sense. So throughout the discussion, we weren't meeting each other halfway. Let's say we were going along with Declan's plan, and I was not happy with that. Declan wanted to live up north, and it was just the most awkward, stupidest plan. I mean, I could understand what he's trying to say, that it was you can just find a bigger place and it's cheaper, all the rest. I get his points, but it's very cumbersome. It takes a lot of time and effort to move place. If we're having a long-term community center, and it should be done now, it has to be down south. One or two places are too expensive. The places I suggested, who living near somebody else in the congregation. But by and large, there's other places that are reasonably priced down south. Anyway, wasn't meeting. Wasn't eye to eye on it, and I was trying to give him important, pertinent points that he completely overlooked, and he was talking over me, and I'm starting to talk over him because I'm getting irritated at this point because he's ignoring critical points. For example, so there's a guy called Matthias who lives in Belgium, and he will inevitably have to move to Ireland. Not going to get into that, but it's inevitable. I talked to Matthias before that, and it's pretty much inevitable. You don't want to be in mainland Europe in the end times. Ireland seems to be the safe bet. I mean, it clearly is. Anyway, and Matthias is from Brazil, and he's getting his European visa and all that sorted out. So the South suits him. Not to mention his wife is from Europe, and it'll suit her. Rather than up north, that's the UK. It's a pain in the ass. I'm not from the UK. It doesn't suit anybody except for Declan, and I'm not happy about this. And there's things like that Richard, I mentioned that Richard completely overlooked. He talked over me. For example, Richard, we should have a four-way conversation. I mean, that's common sense. Why we have exorcism prayers to do here? There's about 20 people who have nothing to do with this discussion and just want to get on with their exorcism prayers and go home. You know, go get their dinner or whatever. It's just not the time and place for it. And the other big point that he completely overlooked and was talking over me is that Declan works in Aldi and he can get people jobs. But there's no Aldi's up north, but there is Aldi's down south. And he can get people jobs straight away, especially people like Matthias. That was another big point overlooked. There was lots of big points overlooked, and Richard is rushing into it. And so I was getting frustrated and irritated, and I started talking over him. Now, that would be considered disrespect. He's my leader, and I would call him a punitive leader. If you don't know what punitive means, it means so that the person in question might be a heretic or an idolater. He doesn't have true jurisdiction, but you don't know it at the time. And so he's a punitive leader. So, for example, even what you consider your priest or your pope, you don't know he's a heretic. In other words, not Catholic. And so, but he's still your authority. You don't know any better, so he's your punitive authority. In fact, he's not your authority because he's a heretic, but because you don't know any better, he's your punitive leader. Anyway, I was speaking over my punitive leader, and that's disrespect. That could be considered a mortal sin. Now, what it really was is me talking over him and him talking over me. I'm irritated. He's talking about a very critical move for me, moving in with these two people who I had issues with them at that point as well, actually, because of the way things were handled. Nothing sat right with me whatsoever, and I was getting irritated, and things were not being mentioned that were important. And it's a very important move. That's also provoking, by the way, and provocation is a sin, by the way. So it was the first provocation, not dealing with me privately as I asked for at the very beginning, and then halfway through, he's starting to insult me. Oh, sorry, the fact that it's about my home and he's making this rush decision, that's provoking in a way. And then third of all, he's starting to insult me. Okay, and it's in front of his congregation. And there's multiple insults. And this is called a gish gallop. Okay, if anybody doesn't know what a gish gallop is, when somebody makes multiple accusations against someone, it's very hard to defend against because you can only defend one topic at a time. But it made it even more difficult to defend against because he had his whole congregation in front of him. and he's getting confirmation bias from them. So that makes it even worse. No Catholic should ever gish gallop a person. You want if it's nothing to do with an issue with somebody or a fault or a sin even, you deal with it topic by topic. You be clear and concise about it, and you do it in the proper manner, not in front of everybody. That's first of all. And so Richard is insulting me left, right, and centre, accusing me of this right, left, right, and centre, and I could only go from memory. It wasn't recorded. I'm not going to go into the accusations. And as far as I'm concerned, they're illegal. You don't do that. You don't approach somebody like that. If you wanted to come to me, there's no problem about any certain issues. And the smart thing to do there, first of all, would be okay. Sure, we'll have a 4-way conversation tomorrow or the next day. What's the big deal? It's really not a big deal whatsoever. First of all, second of all, when it did get heated, it's like, okay, TJ, look, we'll talk about it later. Do you know, that kind of thing. That would have been a natural progression. Richard is a horrible communicator, as I'm saying here now. But all in all, it was basically, if it was just two normal men, a heated discussion. Just two men talking over each other. He felt I didn't understand what he was saying. I felt that he wasn't understanding what I was saying very clearly. I mean, I could articulate his point very easily. It's very simple. It's just that he wants to move to another place that's maybe a little bit more expensive, but has more room for more people. And I get that. That's fine. But up north is just incredibly awkward. And again, moving place is a big decision, and a big move takes a lot of time, a lot of effort. And it's a waste of time because you want to have a community centre. It has to be down south, ultimately. Up north has multitude of problems. It's just awkward, and it only suits one person, Declan. Now, the Gish Gallop, that was a sin. That was provocation, a very, very serious form of provocation. But I was irritable, and I ended up committing the sin of disrespect. And that's kind of highlights the why provocation is so deadly, because you end up provoking people into sin. Now, it doesn't disregard that I was disrespectful to him. I was speaking over him. I was clearly irritable, or irritated, should I say. And that's what it amounted to. If it was two normal people, again, a heated discussion. This was just, but the fact that he was my superior, it's disrespect. Okay, so that's the Gish Gallop, very important. And it's very important to highlight how deceptive a Gish Gallop is, because it's hard. You can't defend against a Gish Gallop. It's not easy because there's so many points against you. Even if you defend against one, well, all the witnesses have heard all these other accusations, and in the back of their mind is, okay, well, TJ might be correct about this, but what about these other things? Said person, Richard is saying in this example, they could be true, or it's very deceptive, and it's not the first time he does this. And it also stops someone from retaliating. So, for example, Richard might be sinning, and I have to now put that aside and defend myself. There's many reasons why Gish Gallop is incredibly deceptive. And what made it worse in this case is he had his congregation in front of him, and it's pretty despicable, to be honest. He's there insulting me in front of his congregation publicly. No need for it whatsoever. Blown out of proportion. And he's throwing all these accusations at me, and he's looking back at his congregation, and he's like, "Oh, you see how TG is? You see how TG is? Look at this! Look at this!" And it's like, and they're all nodding their heads back at him, so that was interesting. There's no way I can defend myself in that situation. It's a crime against justice, actually. As I'll be proving, Richard doesn't care for justice. He doesn't care for a man defending himself. In fact, he shuts them down. He tells people to delete his messages, all the rest, without even saying a word. I'll be getting into that. Now, see how long I'm going on, 24 minutes. That's all right. So that's what happened. It was just a heated discussion. But the fact that he was my superior, it was just disrespectful. At the end of the discussion, I said, "Look, I'm sorry for any offensive cause," because I could tell that he was irritated, and some of them were saying, "Oh, shut up," or something like that. Like, fair enough. And I kind of agreed with them. I kind of should have shut up, but I was irritated. It was, again, the reasons I gave. There was reasons I was irritated, and the provocation that goes along with that. But at the end of the day, there was no shouting. There was no insults flung. It was pretty standard stuff. A heated discussion. That's what happened. I said sorry at the end. And it's very important to point that out. Everybody witnessed it. So at the start, everybody witnessed. I said, "Can we talk about this privately?" Richard ignored that and deuced it out at me. And at the end, I said sorry to them all. That's very important as well. And everybody witnessed that. And when I talk about them two particular topics, nobody contradicted that. I clearly did those two things. Okay. Richard tries to allude that I didn't do it at the start, that I did it in the middle. That's just not true. It's one of his many, many, many lies. Once he goes down the offensive, the lies get grievous. There's a multitude of them. There's so many. It's a super gish gallop, let's just say. And it becomes incredibly difficult to defend against. But there is a technique in defending against them. You find something grievous and lying that you can prove about Richard in this case, and you expose him that he's willfully lying and obstinately lying. So obstinate means when you warn him and he's still holding to his lie, and you're showing him the proof. I mean, it's indisputable proof. So I showed him the indisputable proof of that particular lie, and he wouldn't even respond to it. He's obeying his own simple command. And yeah, once I show that to people, just one obstinate lie, then you know he's a liar. Okay. So that gives me a chance to actually defend myself. Okay. Very, very important. That's the technique how to deal with a dish gallop, is try to prove one of the accusations wrong or just incredibly bad willed, or lying in this case, or willful obstinate lying. And not only willful obstinate lying about grievous matter, he's trying to paint me as a rebel, but also knowing that I know he's lying, which is scandal. So if he was the true faith, if he believes he's the true faith, he's basically saying, "TJ, I don't want you back. I'm lying about you. You know I'm lying about you," and he's done that on a few occasions. It's scandal. It shows he doesn't have any faith either. His whole attitude shows he doesn't have faith, because he's relying on lies and manipulation and exaggeration. There's no need. If you're a Catholic, just go off the facts. Just go off the facts. That's all you have to do, Richard. Now let's get into the nitty gritty. Pause it for a second. Before I continue, regarding the Gestalt and me exposing one of Richard's lies, so therefore you can treat everything he says with a great degree of skepticism. There's a video I'm posting along with this one that'll be on the Richard Late incident, so that'll prove that. Now, so the night in question, as I said, it was done and dusted. I said sorry at the end. We did our exorcism prayers. We finished up. That was it. Okay, so this is where things get blown out of proportion, and it starts with a woman, a member called Nicoline, and it's St. Bridget's Day, so an important day for the Irish Church. And we were out that day. We went to see her relics, all the rest. So we're posting about St. Bridget, and this is after the fact. So the exorcism prayer started about 7 o'clock, because we had the discussion. Normally it ends about 7:45, so I'd say it finished up around 9:30 or 10, thereabouts. And as you can see here, the time here is 23:22 when she posts about St. Bridget. And it's actually quite important where her mind was at the time. It clearly wasn't about me. She's posting at St. Bridget, and I actually posted after her, 11:30. As you can see here, these are images in the church in Kildare, St. Bridget's Church in Kildare, some just ghastly images. And Nicoline responds to it. And this is the big overblown hysterical reaction of hers. But this one here, it just proves that there was no actual issue at the time. She's responding to this. "Oh dear Lord, we're so bad to witness. Look brighter in these images naturally than they were present there. Interesting. My hand is drawn over my mouth and seeing these again. So disturbing." Oh. So look, her mindset is it kind of proves that her mindset is all over the place, because she goes into this big hysterical reaction now in a second. So let's read out her hysterical reaction. TJ, and look, I've had issues with Nicoline before. She's a moan. Irish people like to moan, but Nicoline really likes to moan, and then every so often she gets very weird. Okay, and women need to be kept in check. Let's just say that much. As I went through this situation, it was a heated discussion. That's about it, and I'll prove that in multiple ways. So anyway, I'm very disturbed how you spoke and reacted to Richard tonight. How dare you speak over him the way and talk down to Brother Bruce's counsel online. Very disturbed by your behaviour over the last few months. It's a very serious accusation right there. And personally, I would like to see a massive apology and for you to ask for forgiveness from our leader and from our elder brothers, which we hope to continue to guide us and give us good counsel. Thank you, God, yada, yada, yada. Doesn't mean anything. This woman is a liar on multiple. I could say a lot of things about Nicoline. Let's just keep it civil for now. Well, she's guilty of many mortal sins, but in this one alone, she commits three. Can you spot them? Anybody with Catholic common sense, can you spot them? So first of all, when somebody says, "I'm very disturbed by your behaviour over the last few months," that's obviously not referring to that night. She's talking about her experiences clearly. I'm very disturbed by your behaviour over the last few months. Now, that's what's called hanging up dirty laundry, first of all. Okay. She's not specific, but it's basically a blank check for sin. I'd rather she falsely accuse me of murder than say something like that. It's calumny. That's what it is. When somebody says something like that, and especially there's only three of us in Ireland that are of the Irish Church, and so this is very grievous. And yeah, it's a very grievous statement. That's calumny. That's a mortal sin right there. Okay. It could mean anything to anybody. You, as the observer, what does that mean? It could mean anything. It sounds like I've done something really grievous over the last few months with Nicoline. That's what it looks like. Okay. That's first of all, it's a mortal sin. Now, personally, I'd like to see a massive apology from you and to ask for forgiveness from our leader. Okay, so this is a second sin. Can anybody figure out why this is another sin? Because I've already apologized to the group. And importantly, the leader was there. He was present. And Nicoline was there. And she's now asking me to make a second apology. Now, I actually agree a second apology was necessary because some people weren't there, and disrespect is very serious and it has to be dealt with. So I actually agree with the sentiment, but she cannot demand, it's above her jurisdiction to demand an apology. That's a fact. It's Richard's jurisdiction to demand a second apology. And the reason again will be people are not there, people who didn't witness it. And that's fine, I understand that. But she's acting above Richard's authority here. So that's a mortal sin. Not to mention, Richard was present and therefore he accepted the apology I gave him at the time. He didn't ask for a second one, nor was it an issue afterwards, nor after the exorcism prayers did he say, well, TJ, I have to talk to you later now, or something like this. Nothing like that. As far as anybody was concerned, Richard accepted that apology. So Nicoline here is wanting me to do another apology. So that's also unforgiveness. That's a sin against the fifth commandment. Okay, that's unforgiveness. Richard had already dealt with the situation as far as everybody was concerned, and that was done. So that shows unforgiveness. And this is a common theme with Nicoline. She has a problem with unforgiveness. She has a lot of problems. I will have to make a video about her, unfortunately, because she went public. And like I tried to steer away from the women because they shouldn't really be getting involved at all. They shouldn't be taking it upon themselves to do these things. And it's because of Richard's horrendous leadership, not only that she's doing this, that she's let off the hook to do these kind of things, he actually encourages her, as I'll explain. Now, but it's terrible for me to even to read this out. Look at this. This is a slanderous, calumnious statement. And is there anything to back it up? Well, now I'm going to have to deal with the Nicoline accusations, haven't I? This is part of the gish gallop of Richard's most recent condemnation letter against me. He gets everybody to write their thing about me, even though three people knew me in person. And out of the three people who knew me in person, only one had decent substance, and it's minor stuff altogether. This is completely blown out of proportion, absolutely off the scale. So that's three mortal sins there. hanging up their dirty laundry, that's calumny. Demanding a second apology, that's unforgiveness. And going above Richard's head, that's going above her jurisdiction, and that's going above Richard. So that's also a sin. So three big sins there, and not to mention the hysteria. You just read this; it's hysterical. Okay, if I describe the situation, not to mention it was about a pretty critical issue to me about moving home with other people that I've never lived with before. It's a pretty, and I want to kind of maybe talk about that, and I'm given what 45 minutes to talk with Richard on an online discussion with a whole congregation there. Meanwhile, he's insulting me the whole time. I might be a little irritated, or I might want to get to the bottom of it, Nicoline. She seems to have no concept of this, so it's unreal. Now, before I move further here, I want to point out that there was no issue. I want to further prove that it was done and dusted. It was no big deal. First of all, there's one actually little example. She reacts to my post in the previous picture. She posted something herself, so obviously wasn't pertinent to her at the time. She just posted this again, 11:20. I posted this. She even reacted to it. It obviously wasn't that pertinent for her to bring up, and then all of a sudden she came out with this. Now, um, what will prove this also is the reactions. As you can see here, three people reacted to my posts, and at that time, usually people stick the thumbs up on good posts or whatever. At this point, there was obviously one person who didn't end up clicking on her post, and that it was really weird. The whole night, very few people clicked on her post because it was obviously hysteria. Obviously, usually for a good, solid, especially an admonishment, a good admonishment, which Richard approved of this, by the way. Usually you get 10 to 15 likes. Emojis tell a lot of information, give you a lot of information. Usually 10 to 15 likes for a very important message. And this is the critical message. And she got about 6, I think, in the end. It was clearly hysteria, and I'm clearly trying to calm her down, even though she's attacking me in a vicious way and in a calamus way. Okay, so that is another indication. People are liking my posts, but also I made a post in the food and recipe section also earlier. Here it is here. One sec. This is at just before then. I was joking with Josh about, there has to be a maple flavored beer out there. It'd be the most Canadian thing ever. Anyway, it was kind of a running joke. And there's 5 people who reacted to that. And not only 5 people, but William Norris himself, who's the second in charge in Mary's Little Remnants, Richard's right hand man. Okay, there's no way he'd be liking this post if there was such a huge issue. Okay, not to mention any of these other people. She's Catherine Wirt's a veteran of MLR, same with Philip, and of course they liked it as well. So this is indicating that there's clearly no big issue. Okay, it's very clear. Not only that, Richard was online an hour before this, as you'll see here. Again, it's the same date, the first day of the second month, and he's posting in the memorization section. And there you go. It's not on his mind whatsoever. And he wasn't online this whole time. For the next hour or so, he's just not online. It was not on his mind to demand a second apology. That's obvious. Okay. So I just wanted to point that out. Clearly not a big deal in the group. It just displays the aura, the vibe of the place at this time. There's no big deal. Okay. Nor should it be. It shouldn't have even came up in the online discussion whatsoever. It's a complete joke that it did. Now, let's get down to the nitty gritty of this, what happens. So, as I've pointed out, this was the first comment that she made. My response is de-escalation. Sister, the talk about the move is over, and I apologize for any harm done. It is done. And by the way, nobody ever contradict that. So it's proven I've already apologized. So, as far as Nicoline is concerned, Richard was there, and he didn't demand a second apology. He accepted the apology. Not to mention he was online a half an hour previous, so he's not looking for a second apology. and it's very clear. And I apologize for any harm done. It is done. If there was something else for me to apologize for, Brother Richard would have brought it up to me. I would warn against exactly what should have happened if there was a big issue. He didn't. I would warn against provoking. It would be best to DM me if you have any other thoughts. And that's very important. People like this have an issue about going private with people. They want to hang up dirty laundry. It's an incredibly grievous sin, by the way. And this, again, I have to keep highlighting because it's so disgusting to mention. I'm very disturbed by your behavior over the last few months. It could mean anything. To you, the neutral, it could mean anything. And that's grievous. You can just insert sin here, as far as TJ is concerned. Just insert sin here. Okay, it's incredibly grievous. It's disgusting. No Catholic should ever do that. I'll be getting on to that point more. It is, and I reiterate it, just kind of giving an overview, the logic of the situation. It is fair for me to want to go over the options, not only for myself in moving house, but also for the church's future. And it isn't exactly easy to do that in a group online chat. I'm kind of hinting I was irritated. At the end of the day, it is natural law for me to discuss my future home, albeit under an hour. Again, hinting that my frustration and irritation, Richard, how he dealt with it. I'm allowed to disagree with the things and clear up misunderstandings. And in the end, I must follow the will of our leader. That's a very important point I forgot to mention. In the end, I said, okay, Richard, even though I disagreed with him, I was like, okay, we'll do that. We'll go along with your plan. I completely disagreed with him, but I went along with it. That's a very important point. Because what I had was, see, Richard's trying to paint me as a rebel, that I was pushy, these kind of things. I mean, he's thinking of anything and everything. He's just throwing mud at the wall and seeing what sticks. But I clearly went along with his plan. In other words, what I'm trying to say there is I was passionate in conviction for my plans. Not everything was heard. He rushed into it. But I was passionate in conviction, but I went along with the leader at the end of the day. But I should also say it wasn't an emergency. I mean, there was no dire need for me to move. So he's commanding me to move from my home, basically, effectively. And if you even look at popes in the past, like he's our leader, that's fine. But if you look at popes in the past, they would only order people to move home if it's like a famine or a war or some really serious situation. This is just literally as mundane as it can get. There's no need for this, you know. Hardly an emergency whatsoever. I'm now in charge of the church. Well, on Pentecost Day, I'll be officially in charge of the church. I wouldn't order things like that, people, unless it's absolutely necessary. Absolutely necessary. And there's lots of things he does that are why he's just lording over people. There's no need for it. I mean, he's the leader at the end of the day. He has jurisdiction, but it's there's examples of abuse of authority. Actually, on that point, because I'm going to be missing things as I go, but thankfully I wrote it out. I just want to read out what I have written so far from what we've already dealt with. I just want to read out the last bit here. I'm allowed to disagree with things, clear up misunderstandings, and in the end, I must follow the will of our leader. Very important. And I'm not going to do that perfectly, as I also have faults. I hope you take that to heart. I'm just trying to be as nice as possible to her, even though she's dragging my name through the mud. Richard actually claims I was attacking her, and this is I'm going to point that out right now. It's very important. This is one of the first of Richard's lies that I'll be pointing out. Let's pause it here, get the document up. Okay, so this is very important. I'll be just referring to it briefly here, but I'll come back to it. So this is his condemnation letter of me. This came after my so-called excommunication, and this is page 6 of it. All the brothers are appalled, disgusted, and exasperated by TJ's sinful behaviour. So already you know that's a lie. I've just shown you how even his right-hand man is liking my posts. I had 2 posts up. Nicoline is referring to me. Richard is posting an hour beforehand. It's clearly done and dusted. I already apologised the night before or during the discussion, all the rest. And some of them condemned him on the chat site. Actually, it was just Nicoline, Richard. He then began to attack them. So, first of all, it's disgusting. It's disgusting. So you already know, no, that's a lie. First of all, it was done and dusted, and some of them, as I showed the evidence, they're just acting normal to me. They're liking my posts. The right hand man, literally William Norris, Richard's right hand man, is liking my humorous post. It's done and dusted. All right. That's proof. What Richard has here is hot air, and this is his whole document. It's hot air, exaggeration. It's just disgusting lies, the whole thing. As I said, I got on with them before, but all the devils came to the surface. It's just manifest. It's disgusting. Now, and some of them condemn him onto the chat site. That's another lie. Only Nicoline did. Okay, so he's trying to make it again. He's trying to exaggerate. So that's an exaggeration, which is a lie. No Catholic should ever lie. Lying is saying to God, "I hate you," because God is truth. Willfully lying. He then began to attack them. So let's just stop there. Now this is very important, actually. This sentence here. He then began to attack them as if the condemnations were unjust. He played it off as a minor matter. I then told him that he was to apologize for sinful behavior to all the brothers, which he accused of sinning, for justly admonishing his sinful behavior. I have no clue what that means because nobody else was involved at this point in time. It was just Nicoline. So when he asked me to apologize before that fact, it was just Nicoline. That's it. Fact. Okay. And it was Nicoline who asked me to apologize. But my point here is that he's lying that there was multiple people, and he's lying that I began to attack her. I mean, this is a complete joke at this point. So let's go back to what where's the picture gone? Let's go back to the picture. So as you can see here, I'm clearly trying to de-escalate her. I'm warning her for her own soul, warning against provoking, and warning against asking for a second apology. And I didn't really make it strongly worded here. I strongly worded it in the next message because she's now been obstinate about it. So I was de-escalating. I'm giving her fair warning and not to be provoking. That's another sin of hers. Actually, I didn't even mention that in my letter. Now, she continues in her hysteria. It's only the beginning, brother. I love you, but I love the fate more. Your behavior of our leader, spiritual, disturbed me tonight. If I was near you, I would have cracked you across the face to dare to speak our leader and give it was like yada yada yada. Okay, so she's continuing on her hysteria. It's like, sister, you are being provoking. I apologized. It is done. You either forgive or you don't. You need to DM me if you have issues, or go through Brother Richard if you have other issues. It's very simple. Just so people don't misinterpret my previous message, not going to do that perfectly. Was referring to my faults. Okay, so let's see what she says next. Everything is in order and included, so nothing's missing. It's very important because Richard omits half of this discussion because he's trying to paint me like I'm attacking her. No, I'm okay. I'm happy to be able to say this now. I will fully accept and forgive if I see humility and acceptance of bad behavior. It doesn't work like that, Nicoline. If somebody apologizes, you accept it. If they don't do the penance and it's a public penance, fine, then you can not accept their apology. But in this case, you're just demanding a second apology by your own volition. You can't do that. And you have to accept an apology straight away, immediately. It's an apology. It's between me and God now at this point. It's completely blown out of proportion. As I said, brother, we owe so much to Richard, and tonight disturbed me. Without God's grace, remember, if he pulls them up from us, who are we? Anyways, later, Dominus Vobiscum. So I can tell I pricked her conscience a little bit. She's kind of like, maybe I should have went to Richard. Just the way she worded that at the end there. But at the end of the day, she's still saying she won't forgive me. So I have to re-emphasize. To forgive it requires an apology. Proof of humility and acceptance comes after that. But you're not just doing that. See, this is where I'm like, no, Nicoline, you're way out of order. Absolutely way out of order. These sins that she's committing are grievous. The sin I committed that night, while disrespect is serious, it was talking over him. He's talking over me. It's a personal matter. It should never have happened. All the rest. But I still sinned. Fair enough. What she's doing is grievous. But you're not just doing that so I brought up other things, and I'm properly admonishing her at this point, and this is not an attack. This is a care for her soul. I was trying to de-escalate. She wouldn't accept. A good natural Catholic reaction was like, "Yeah, you're right, TJ. I should have went to Richard. I'll talk to him, but I do believe you need to apologize the second time," which is fine. I don't mind that. But go to Richard. Don't do it publicly. Obviously. But you're not just doing that. Among other things, you're hanging up dirty laundry. You do not do that publicly. What does I am very disturbed by your behavior over the last few months? I have no clue what that means. And I never got a DM from you over the past few months, but you say it publicly. And this could mean anything. That is calumny. You DM me personally about things you have issue with, but you didn't. And that's a fact. I have all my DMs with hers recorded. There's nothing in there where she admonished me or there was any issue. In fact, it's all very upbeat and friendly. In fact, I'm helping her most of the time. She's infested with devils, and she's one of the core figures here, pulling the strings. She's been doing it for a long time in a very subtle way. Women are manipulative, calumnious. Naturally, they tend towards these sins: calumny, gossip, detraction, lying, hysteria, exaggeration. They tend to lean towards these things, and if men are not pulling them up, the leaders are not pulling them up, they end up falling into it headlong. Look, it is what it is, but Richard should have pulled that up with her years ago. Okay. And I wasn't in charge. Richard removed my leadership, which is another lie he said about me, that I was leader. He removed my leadership over 2.5 years ago. It's a fact. I'm the most I do is lead prayers in Ireland, you know. Anyway, this is very grievous. I'm getting into her with very grievous matters that she's doing here, and you DM me personally if you have issue, which you didn't. And this verse here, Matthew 18:15, one of my favorite verses, Matthew 18:17, go to the church. Whoever doesn't go to a church is a heathen and publican. But just before that is 18:15, a verse completely ignored by Richard. But if thy brother shall offend against thee, go and rebuke him between thee and him alone. Very clear and simple. Go to the person. So when she says this disturbing behavior, well, show me, Nicola, where you came to me. You didn't. You never did. There was never any issue. Any of my interactions with you, especially in person and in private messages, all pleasant. I'm helping you or whatever else. All very pleasant. It's a fact. So she never came to me, but she's willing to, before she comes to me, she's willing to display, I'm very disturbed by your behavior over the last few months. Complete hysterical, sinful, mortally sinful comment. And of course she types right back. She's ready to type. She's just, well, stop. Oh, I wrote a little bit more. And regarding tonight, Brother Richard can deal with me if there's other issues. Do not be high-minded. I apologize for any harm done to the group. That's all you need to know to forgive. Now, I was up early. I need to go to bed now. That's all. That's it for tonight. Now, the hysteria continues. I hate reading this out. It's not that simple, Brother TJ. When within our community in Ireland, I feel confused and fear for the salvation of souls. And mother, as a mother, I look to our blessed mother. This is the flowery shite. I don't want to hear from her ever again. And a lot of these kind of false traditionalists, they're just full of these apparent pious words, and it just doesn't mean anything. The faith isn't there. So the rest is just flowery language. It actually means nothing to anything right now. Basically, the only sentence here of relevance is the first sentence. It's not that simple, TJ. Within our community in Ireland, I feel confused and fear for the salvation of souls. All I have to say to that is, shut up, Nicoline. What are you talking about? 60 years ago, so we're going, okay, I'm talking to the normie here, the complete neutral, who's not part of MLR. MLR consider themselves the last remnant of the Catholic Church, okay? There's about 20 of us, 30 of us. For the last 50, 60 years, there was basically nobody in Ireland. I brought Nicoline into the faith. I brought Declan into the faith, the next accuser I'll be bringing up. I brought the foreigners in Ireland to the faith, granted they fell away. And I brought there's two other people who are considered inquirers, so they're very close. I brought a lot of people who are at least very close to the faith, but I brought Nicoline herself and Declan into the faith. We're in a much better position, according to MLR, than at least 60, 70 years ago in Ireland, okay? So I don't want to hear your shit about when our community in Ireland feel confused in the fear of our salvation of our souls. Shut up. Where's your gratitude? We're in a much better position than 60, 70 years ago. That displays in a nutshell her personality, that the propensity to moan. Irish people like to moan, I'll say that much, but she really loves to moan. Okay. A common example is there's a thing called the lesser evil. she just had a problem with that for years, where a politician, a clearly evil politician, would do a good thing. We can complement that. It's a lesser evil. So we compare all the politicians, they're all evil. None of them are Catholic, but we know who's a lesser evil. Or when somebody does a good thing, you recognize it. She just could never do that because she just detests these politicians, which is fine. You can detest them. Abhor them is a better word. Because you can't hate any souls. But she just could never, she had a serious issue with that. She was just too, that propensity to moan about the politicians or whatever else, the situation. The weather is a big one. Just constant moaning. Like, I mean, living in Ireland, you're the luckiest climate in the world. It's the most temperate place you could live in. Sure, it rains, but it doesn't even rain that much. I mean, she's always moaning about it. It's just, it always wrecked my head. They're the small things, but it multiplies. Okay, now I'm moaning. All right, fine. Irish love to have a moan now and then. Okay, so that's complete. I mean, and nothing comment, and it's just stupid. And then the rest is just flowery language. And I'm trying to encourage her again. God's will be done, sister, and that includes us in our faults, all of us. We follow His commandments, never in fear of lost souls, but have charity. That's all we can do. I quote a Bible verse. Ireland is a better state than the last 60 years or more. We're doing much better than most countries. Let us be thankful for it. And as I said to Brother Declan, thankful we have the North and South. It's another plus of Ireland. We have the option of the UK and Ireland down south, the EU. We've been given many graces. We must support each other in the pursuit of the salvation of souls for others. I mean, she does absolutely nothing for the church. Nothing. And the mental lies she's been spreading about me, the person who brought her in and is bringing other people in, spends a lot of time on people spreading the faith. And she does literally nothing. Nothing. She doesn't even invite me down for Christmas. I mean, there's only two of us in Ireland at the time. Two Catholics in Ireland. She doesn't invite me down for the second most important feast day of the year. Unbelievable. She has serious issues she needs to overcome. I'm the one showing her. I'm the one helping her. Even now, the disgusting lies about me, the calumny, all the rest. Couldn't even get into the list right now. I need to have it written down to remember it all. But I'm still here to help her, and as this time here, I'm helping her. Look, you can't do these things, Nicoline. They're mortal sins, and I'm pulling you up on them. It's not an attack. It's literally a defense of you. I wrote here, I understand your frustration with me tonight, of course, and I get frustrated myself at how I word things. You did not go about it the right way. It is for Brother Richard to deal with me. As we've dealt with it online, we move on. As we dealt with it online, we move on. It is very important to forgive immediately. It is essential, as Brother Richard taught me many times. No big discussion comes without disagreements, and I will go along with his judgment. It is simple, as the faith is simple. We will talk soon, privately. Good night. Now, this is where Richard chimes in. Sister Nicoline is correct in her admonishment. It is not done, TJ. You have to confess and apologize to us all. It is not just me, but all the brothers that you know about you. Know about me? What does that mean? What does that mean? I mean, this is where everything goes haywire. Completely haywire. This immediately you should be they have the faith, okay? None of you, if any of you are from the Diamonds or Nominal Catholic, SSPX, any of them groups, none of you are Catholics, right? What you're doing is far worse than what Richard's doing here, okay? Or anything that Richard's done. You guys are complete apostates, right? So don't be just ragging on Richard. But what Richard is doing here is displaying that he's not Catholic. He's starting. This is where everything just comes apart for Richard. Okay. Now, as I said already, I have absolutely no problem to confess or apologize a second time. But it's not for the reason Richard gives here, which is completely vague and sinful and calumnious. But the reason I should confess a second time is simply because some people were not there that night, and I need to confess about the disrespect. That's the sin. That is the sin in question. I'm not going to apologize for what Nicoline says is disturbing behavior. I have no clue what that means, nor does the observer. Okay? There's many people who weren't there that night that didn't witness Richard's illegal gish gallop. Illegal. You can't do that. You can't defend yourself against that. If you believe you can gish gallop like that, if you believe you can gish gallop like that, you hate justice. End of story. You're a heretic. On that alone. You don't believe a man can defend himself. That's a heresy. If you believe the Gish Gallop was good, that's a heresy. And it seems you do believe that. It's illegal. And therefore dismissed. And if you want to deal with me, fine. Come to me privately and do everything topic by topic, as a Catholic should, in patience and in charity also. Now, Sister Nicolaine's correct in her admonishment. So the spirit of her admonishment to do a second apology, I even agree with that. Some people weren't there, and this respect is serious. I had to apologize a second time. But this here is a mortal sin of Richard's. All the brothers that know that about you. What about me? That's calumny, Richard. All the people who were not there that night to witness your illegal gish gallop, or whatever the heck you're talking about, this is a blank check for sin. This is generalistics. Richard loves his generalistics. It's just apologize in general, TJ, for your sinful behavior or your disturbing behavior, whatever that means. And I can insert sin here. That's what it means. That's what it effectively means. That's illegal. You can't do that. And it's calumny. Because people are literally, the neutral, the guy in SSBX, whoever you are, the Diamond Knight, can just literally insert sin here now. Whatever happened with TJ. I'll cut to the chase. It happened to do with timekeeping and stuff like that. And I mean, it's really minor stuff. But this stuff here is incredibly serious. I mean, I'm talking about the valid points they have, mostly timekeeping. And it's really not that serious whatsoever. Look at the late incident with Richard. That's just displays it in a nutshell. Now, besides Richard committing this grievous mortal sin here, calumny, he decides to overlook what I've been pointing out to Nicoline, that she can't go over his head. That's a sin. She can't demand a second apology when it was apparent the leader didn't ask for a second apology and he was present. Therefore, that's unforgiveness. And you can't hang up dirty laundry. That's mortal sin. Sin against the fifth commandment. A hatred of man's soul, actually. Sorry, the hatred of man's soul. Sorry, I'm wrong there. Fifth commandment is when she demands a second apology. That's unforgiveness. That's a hatred of man's soul. And then when you when you hang up dirty laundry, that's a sin against the eighth commandment, calumny, when you're dragging a man's name through the mud. And he doesn't pull her up on that. But maybe he'll do it later. Maybe he's just dealing with me, doing things topic by topic. Really, I don't think so. But let's just see. Maybe he will. Let's not assume, like Richard assumes and rushes. Maybe he's going to admonish her after he deals with me here. And I'm going to apologize for the clear sin I committed, which was disrespect. Now, Nicoline continues in her hysteria. All I feel is confusion, Brother TJ, and I'm tired of that. Give us guidance, which our spiritual leader gives us. Praise God. I mean, what was unclear about what I'm writing, even, Nicoline? You're sinning left, right, and centre. You obviously don't care for your own soul. Okay, well, that's what you're telling me. You don't care about your own soul. That's what you're telling everybody else. You're telling everybody that you can hang up dirty laundry, that you can demand second apology without Richard's approval, and you can be unforgiving. That's what you're teaching everybody. Yeah. You are confused, Nicoline. Very confused, and you're on the road to hell. You're going to listen to me, or you're going to listen to Richard, who doesn't admonish you for these things? Which is effeminate, by the way. I'll get into that in a second. And now I can see much as a problem with Dermot, as things are broken up, badly written. It's just a dirty statement. Dermot is a lad that left before, and it's like, ugh, why would he go there? Anyway, not going to get into that. Oh dear Lord, just as the sins as the past have revealed themselves unto us, rescue us, dear Lord. Clutches of sin. She's completely hysterical. Clearly, it's not how you deal with sins. If it's like really serious, okay, you can use this tone. If I'm being obstinate, like, and don't forget her little emojis as well. It's really serious. Come on. She's very clearly hysterical. If you don't believe she's hysterical, get away from me. Okay? She's hysterical, obviously. And again, as I've shown you, people react to my posts, my humorous posts, or my St. Bridget's posts as normal. They were present. Richard's right hand man himself. I mean, This is hysteria, guys. It's proven. Now, having said that, I do believe I should apologize second time. Oh, sorry, I overlooked this comment. When I say all the brothers, I mean all the brothers in Mexico and brothers Declan, Matthew, Matthias. And you have some serious mortal sinful behavior to overcome. Once again, with generalistics. Wow. And if you even if you sincerely confess, the only remedy for you to truly overcome your is to get a job and be under a boss under regular hours. Okay, fair enough. So I respond to him again, plain speak, on the level. I understand, brother. All I can do is apologize for it. If you want me to be in full-time employment, I will apply for jobs. I should note here that he instructed me not to get a job. He lies in his document that he asked me many times. That's not the case. 95% of my communication with Richard, even more, 96 or 97% of my communication with Richard is all by direct message in text. And he commanded me not to work actually. Now I still have to apply for jobs. I still have to take up jobs, but that's what he commanded me not to take up full employment. Just say that. Just say that. But he lied that he was saying for me to get a job for a long time. It's just not true. It's just not true. The opposite is true. I'm sorry about tonight, but I do believe I was disrespectful to. Oh yeah, so I'm here. Here's the second public apology, which is fine. People who are not there. I'm very specific about what I say. I'm not addressing serious mortal sinful behavior to overcome. What the heck does that mean? Blank check for sin once again. All the brothers know that about you. No, what about me? Your very disturbing behavior the last few months. What does that mean, Nikolai? What am I hinting at here? They actually don't have anything against, because if they had, they could be specific about it. I think that's a very important point now in a minute. But very clearly, I committed the sin of disrespect. Whether it was under provocation or not, doesn't matter. It was still disrespect. And I knew that at the time. I was going to do it, Richard, as I show down here. I'm sorry about tonight. I do believe I was disrespectful to Brother Richard during the discussion. I'm talking to everybody here. I tagged their names, so everybody will be getting this message. I could have done a lot better in articulating what I wanted to say and not repeat myself so much. That was the other thing I did. I was repeating myself, which is fair enough. I'm sorry for any damage or scandal done. So very clear, simple apology. And that's where it ends. Or no, wait, that's where it should end at least. I hope you are sincere and I will take it as such. May God have mercy and forgive you your sins. The penance is to get a job under your boss, work irregular hours, and this will also solve many other problems. You'll see that it is necessary in your case for the salvation of your soul and charity among the brethren. Okay. And the brothers. Thank you, Sister Nicoline, for bringing us up. St. Bridget, no doubt, inspired you. Okay. Dear Lord, help us in Ireland. Wow. And by the way, more hysteria. My last response is, thanks, brother. I will DM you after the Lord's Day. Have a good night. And when I say I will DM you after Lord's Night, Richard, you're guilty of some serious mortal sins right now. Heresies, actually. I'll get into that in a second. And I will deal with you. But see, the thing is, if I had brought them up right now, I was thinking for a while how I should word this. And see, if I had brought up them things, they would have thrown it back in my face. I know how they are now. They're just disgusting, every one of them at this point. What they've gone along with, all the lies and the exaggerations, and it's just beyond disgusting. And I instinctually knew at the time I can't bring up Richard's sins right now because it'll look like I'm deflecting from my own sin, which is true. Or that is the sin itself is true, should I say. But if I had brought them up, it would have looked like I was deflecting. It's like, oh, look how he's deflecting. All this shit. Get away from me. Don't want to know he's anymore. Unless he's repent, of course. Now, I'll get down to that in a second. But a very important point here is, first of all, he says St. Bridget no doubt inspired you. Okay. First of all, where was your inspiration an hour earlier, Richard, when you posted on the memorization section? You need a woman to tell you how to do your job? First of all, that's effeminate. Second of all, St. Bridget inspired her to sin on mortal sins, commit 3 mortal sins. 4, actually, provoking. I forgot to add that one in. Provoking me, hanging up dirty laundry, demanding a second apology, And what was the fourth one? And going above Richard's head. 4 mortal sins in this one comment. And hysteria. 5. 5 mortal sins. And he's saying St. Bridget inspired her. That's from the devil, Richard. That's blasphemy. If I call him Brother Richard by accident, apologies. It's just a bad it's a habit it'll take a while to to be rid of. So that's that, and I left it as nice as possible. Look, let's go back to what he said now about the attack. Okay. He then began to attack them. And he's talking about Nikolai here because it's before he asked me to apologize. I then told him to apologize. So he's talking about attacking them. It was before he asked me to apologize. Literally one person, so that's a lie. And not only did I not attack her, I was trying to de-escalate a hysterical woman, but I was trying to defend her from the devils that have overcome her. Whereas you are not only flattering her, encouraging her, but you're committing. So all them sins she committed, you're now committing through omission. But you're also committing a heresy, Richard. The non-judgmental and non-punishmental heresy. And he does this all the time. I noticed it in the past. It's whether you want to call it flattery or moving the goalposts. Certain things apply to certain people. Another example is Ryan Gott. Ryan Gott is the one pushing the whole thing about me being delayed or timekeeping, which are very minor. We're talking about coffee breaks on a holiday, and every single time I ask him for permission to get a coffee because he's in charge, which is just idiotic. And he's pushing that the timekeeping is the issue. Yet he's the worst offender. He's the biggest accuser of me on timekeeping, and he's the biggest offender. Everybody in the group knows they are late. Ryan, Gott, and the Gotts are late, and Ryan is driving, are late, often on the Lord's Day for the lecture, and there's 20 plus, 25 plus people waiting for the lecture to begin. And we could have ended. Usually it's average 5-10 minutes, but it could easily be 20 minutes. Easily. And it's often. I mean, I'm talking 60% of the time if I was to estimate. And Richard never admonishes him. And that's serious. That's the Lord's Day lectures. Everybody is waiting for him. It's not just me having a cigarette or a freaking coffee that I got asked for permission for, which is the main contention of Ryan. It's beyond ridiculous. And how these accusations go back on your own heads. It should be starting to come very clear to the complete neutral how demonic these people are in Mary's Little Remnant. They're still way ahead the SSPX and the Diamondites, right? But completely infested with devils. Something big is happening here. Something very big is happening right now. That's all I knew. I'm not sure what's going on. I'm just bemused by it. I'm just trying to calm her down. I'm saying good night to Richard. Enjoy your night. I'll point that out again, actually. Very important point. And I said good night to Richard. Thanks, brother. I will DM you after the Lord's Day. Have a good night. He's going to enjoy his movie night and his cigar and his drink, what he does normally. Okay? Have a good night. I mean, how much more plain and simple can it be? De-escalating, be pleasant. But the fact that he says I'm attacking her, just is get rid of the word "them." Nikolai, just insert Nikolai in there. This cult of Ibranyi, every one of them are infested with devils. So any neutral there was I attacking her? Am I completely batshit crazy here? I'm de-escalating her. I'm warning her about mortal sins, which she committed. 3 of them, 4 of them, 5 of them. I keep forgetting to add the provocation. What was the 5th one? You literally lose count. I literally lose count of the sins committed. Not going to repeat myself. There was 5. I remember that much. He did apologize, but insincerely, as he went on attacking those who justly condemned him. He said they were provoking him. So this here is important. That's the next section with Declan. But just before I go on to that, he quotes Nikolai. This is the person who was a serious attack. And actually note how many likes she ended up getting in the end. So that's 6:42 p.m. on the second day of the first month. This is important. Very important. Okay. If there was a very pertinent post on Discord, the average like count would be between 11, say 10 to 14 likes, okay? Nobody was liking her comments. That's on the first day. Oh, sorry, this is the first day of the second month. Okay, I'm getting my times mixed up, and look, and think this is American dates, so the month is first. Okay, now I'm backwards. Okay, I know where I am now. So this is 7. That's 4:52 plus 7. That's 7 hours plus 5 is 12. Okay, so that's just after. But she ended up getting 6 in the end. Okay. And people, it was obvious she's been in this area. Anyway, what I'm trying to get at here, sorry, little distracted there. Most posts that are popular get about 10 to 14 likes. And everybody was weirded out by this. They all went quiet. It was obvious they're online. They all just went quiet. It was like, they obviously knew I was right at the time. But when Richard gets involved, now the idolatry kicks in. Well, Richard must be right. They start overlooking sins left, right, and centre. Now look, this is all he included of my discussion with Nicolai. Look at that. So in total is that little comment there and this little comment here. I wrote a lot more than that. And there's a lot of context that I'm describing now that the average reader who reads this condemnation letter would have a clue about. Richard won't offer that context. Instead, he'll only pick out mainly Nicolai's comments, ignore most of mine. And what am I doing? I'm showing you everything. I have nothing to hide. So that was a lie. They were acting completely normal. That was a lie. I did not attack her whatsoever. I was calming her down, trying to calm her down at least. I'm warning her. So let's move on to the next section, which is... Oh, lost my page again. The next part is Declan Power decided to chime in the following day. Now, in between this time, Declan was he was going back and forth with Richard a lot. It's something I couldn't go into this video, but he was clearly angling me for weeks to Richard, especially about moving up north, because I didn't want to go up north and he didn't want to go down south. He was clearly angling Richard for weeks. And actually, that particular night, he didn't chime in that night, but he chimed in the morning. But in between that time, he messaged Richard, if memory serves me right, but I'm saying 90% certain. It's in his condemnation letter. I had to look it up. I don't want to do it now. But he messaged him saying that he should take charge of the moving thing and all the rest. And he does it again after this escalates even more, that he should take charge of the church. I mean, Declan's a complete imbecile on the faith. Complete imbecile, as I'll be proving in many ways. And maybe he had a little power trip or something. I don't know. His second name happens to be Power. I don't know. I brought him into the faith also, and I've helped him over the years in many, many ways. It's a completely disgusting level of betrayal from Declan. Okay. So anyway, he says, "Amen, TJ. I believe this is best. Get a job. It'll give a structure in the house." Okay. Richard says we're going to find a new place in Derry, Belfast, and Antrim. Big cities will give you a better house. So he's just repeating what Richard said there, and I didn't disagree with anything there. I need you to work with me this time. Now, this is a lie, okay? I was working with him and Matthew for weeks. Now, this is where we get into the fuzzy part because I can only prove so much to the neutral. I'm trying to figure out how I should deal with this because it's difficult for me because we're talking about individuals now, and you guys don't know the individuals, so I can prove it to people in MLR itself, but it's more difficult for the public. So I might even end it here soon, but I'll just overview what happens. It's very it just is what it is. Well, all you need to know as a neutral is that Richard is willing to lie. He's already proven it here multiple times. He's committed the non-judgmental heresy. He can't admonish a woman, and by the way, that's effeminacy. It's the sin of effeminacy. Not only encouraging a woman, but going along with it. Or should I say that backwards? Going along with a hysterical woman, but encouraging her and attributing it to the Holy Spirit. She's hysterical, Richard. You were thus hysterical. It's sin of omission. You're effeminate. It's important that you continue on this with this for our sake in Ireland. This is too serious for my salvation with your sinful behavior. Way to go. Another general accusation of sin. Wow. Isn't that just brilliant? I get three people making a general accusation of sin that the complete neutral, or the people who weren't there that night, think that there is some serious issue with TJ regarding sin, and we don't know what it is, but it's clearly serious. I mean, Declan, Nicoline, and Richard have said the same thing. This general accusation, sinful behavior, disturbed by your behavior the last few months. Let me think about how I deal with this next part. I'm going to pause it for a second because this has to be done delicately. Yeah, I'm not going to get into the details about. Okay, so this is a lie here. I need you to work with me this time. He knows it's a lie. I know it's a lie. I prefer not to use anecdotal evidence. I like to actually prove things to people. I've proven quite a lot so far, and just what is proven to you with Declan's message here is again he's using the generalistics, the sinful behavior. That's again calumny. You need to be specific with sin. Anybody can guess what that means. And notice I responded to the accusation of disrespect, nothing else. I do believe I was disrespectful to Brother Richard during the discussion. That's all I dealt with. And it was clearly done and dusted at the night. And it was only because of Nicoline's hysteria that Richard brought it up, because he was online an hour beforehand. People are liking my posts, all the rest of it. It was done and dusted. He's only responding to a hysterical woman because he's effeminate. And makes his own general accusation of sin. And let's not forget the gish gallop that he did against me in front of his congregation, which I can't defend against. So now I'm bringing up this theme of Richard's hatred for justice, actually. He has no concept of justice, no concept whatsoever. And when you hate, and when he's lying as well, I put that in the same category. Again, if you lie willfully, which he clearly is, that I was attacking her, that's just unbelievable. That alone. He then began to attack her. There was no them, first of all. It's a lie. It's like a small lie. That was them. Nobody else knows. Then he then began to attack her. No, I wasn't attacking her whatsoever. That's a willful lie. It's a lie. It's willful. And it's nobody else was saying anything. It was just Nicoline. And I don't even care if they were exasperated after the fact. I would understand during a discussion I was repeating myself, and they're like, "Ah, shut up." One of them said, "Ah, shut up," or something like that, and I'd understand that. But if you don't understand why I'd be irritable in that situation, again, ask to go private at the start. I asked during the discussion, can we go four ways, just the people included? Why be including everybody else who was waiting for an exorcism prayer? and we're talking about this for an hour. Why are we deciding about where I move in the space of an hour in a public discussion? And why are you gish galloping me in front of your congregation and using your congregation against me? If people can't figure out why I might be irritated or perturbed and maybe talking and repeating myself or being irritated, you're an idiot. Get away from me. Just get away from me. Don't freaking this disgusted, exasperated shite. Get away from me. Disgusting exaggerators. Every single one of you are on the road to hell. This exaggeration and lying. Absolutely. It was a heated discussion. It's as simple as that, and I proved it. Why would William be approving my humorous post just afterwards? Why wouldn't Richard bring it up a second time? Instead, he reacts to an effeminate woman. Sorry, a hysterical woman, making him effeminate. It's a complete shit show, and you're all involved, and you're all going to hell for it. And I'm just being polite to them the whole time. There's one or two who didn't get involved whatsoever. And I had a bit more respect for them. They were just sitting back and just observing. The rest of them just like a pack of hyenas. Well, they weren't with Nicola. She only got 6 likes for things. But the post that Richard does now in a minute, the whole lot of them just pile on top of you then. There's absolutely no patience, no Christian charity, no private admonishment, by the way, about this sinful behaviour. Or as Nicoline says, this general, or your behaviour over the last few months. And I went to Declan and Nicoline privately the next day, and neither of them could give me anything specific. Nothing. And that's very important. This shows just how evil. I keep saying that. It just gets worse and worse from here, guys, okay? The level of sin that's been committed here. So, I'm not sure what time of day this is. So Richard had already posted his thing and he's riled everybody up and they're all liking his comments, all the rest of it. They're all fully on board with Richard's effeminacy. Frankly, drama queen. I mean, they're guilty of all the sins so far. So it's all the sins Nicoline committed. It's 5 total. They're guilty of the non-judgmentalism. They're guilty of accepting general accusations. That's calumny. They're guilty of not letting a man defend himself, allowing these general accusations to go out there. They all hate justice, every one of you. And again, some people weren't there that night. They could only guess what this means. Just like I had to apologize for the groups because people weren't there, you guys need to be specific about your sinful behavior. And you got to let me defend myself. If I want to defend myself, sometimes it's true. And as I go through, basically the main accusation, that's the only one's true. And I don't even want to deal with what's true because it's all illegal. It was not all done the improper manner. No, the focus is on you, Richard, on Declan, and on Nicoline. And Ryan as well. They're the main offenders. And Matthew. The focus is now on you because you acted illegally and you're sinning right, left, right, and centre and you're dragging everybody else to hell, especially Richard, dragging his whole congregation into hell. At this point in time, when Richard sent me this letter, I'll get into this in a second, this message. I knew Richard is dragging everybody to hell. He's not fit for leadership. End of story. Now, let's get into that. I have some bad news. Brother TJ's confession was totally insincere, as you'll see by my correspondence he had with Brother Declan. He's even worse than I thought. He's condemning Brother Declan and trying to force him to commit a sin of omission and also the sin of commission by defending TJ's sinful behaviour, again with the generalistics. This is so bad. This is so bad. I'm going to go in, I have to show you these DMs between me and Declan that he decided to share with Richard because he's a bit of a coward and effeminate and he's a stoic as well. Now, Brother TJ, if you do not sincerely confess, repent, and apologise to Brother Declan within 1 week, you will be under minor excommunication and thus I will ban you from the site. If you want to communicate with me, you can do so by DM. I'll let you online today for Mass prayers, but I'll mute your mic, and I don't want you typing anything during Mass prayers, announcements, or a lecture. I'll leave you with my one of my daily Bible readings. Yada yada yada. He's trying to put me as then quiet. He's talking about people who are irregular, disorderly. element of truth. But I wouldn't say I'm a regular disorderly. In fact, I get the most done outside New Mexico. I evangelize the most. It's a fact. I'm bringing people into the faith. I'm helping the most within the group. I'm helping people one to one. It's a fact. Everybody new that came into the group, I'm there talking to them for an hour or two, welcoming them in, helping them with whatever issue, except for the women, but everybody else. I'm helping all sorts of people in the group and encouraging them. There's nothing but positivity from my end. And I'm pretty much the only person who wrote articles for the website too. And I'm making videos as well, uplifting videos. And I'm the only person actually on the ground evangelizing in group scenarios. I admonished a group of 40 nationalists. That's how they found me in the beginning. Admonishing about 40 Irish nationalists. I wrote an article about Padraig Pearse. Padraig Pearse, if anybody doesn't know, is the height of Irish nationalism. Both sides of the Civil War idolize him, and I completely condemn him. What my point is that every single Irish nationalist will have a gun at my head for that alone. Okay, they idolize Pearse, and I went after him. I'm doing actual things. I'm acting on the faith more than anybody else. I'm doing all the protests. I'm organizing everything. Myself and Dermot were at the St. Patrick's Day parade, condemning, literally following the LGBT float that was at the parade. The whole way down, we condemned them, gave them an earful, made sure everybody heard us. Nobody else is doing that. I'm going alone in many cases. The Puka Festival. So don't be calling me a regular disorderly. I do quite a lot. A lot more than, apart from Richard, in terms of the faith and helping people and evangelizing, there's nobody who comes close to me. End of story. And one of these contentions that's not a sin, by the way, is staying up late. Just for people's information, when you read things like that, the reason I stay up late is for two reasons. I live beside a motorway. You might even hear it in the background. It's very loud. It's constant all day long. It's pure, it's noise. It's noise pollution. And I live right beside the motorway, literally right beside it. One of the main roads into Dublin City. And it's quiet after 12 midnight. So I always had the propensity to stay up later. That's number one. Number two is I live with nominals. My nominal family, biological family, but they're nominal Catholics. And so it's less time in the day to spend with them. It's just a common thing that comes up, but it's not a sin to stay up late. It's just, and Richard knew it for years, but all of a sudden it's a big issue now. Because that's Richard's personality. He's exaggerating. He's moving the goalposts also. So Declan, for example, in his letter to myself when I left, he got specific. And when did that happen, by the way? I'm kind of skipping ahead. I want to deal with these DMs in a second. But just remember the three people who made general accusations on the chat site: Richard, Declan, and Nicoline. And none of them. Richard just gave me an ultimatum, 1 week minor excommunication. Through that whole week, I was quiet because I knew this place is infested with devils. I want nothing to do with it at this point in time. This was the moment. In fact, this is the moment I left. What day was this? It was the day after. It was the second day of the second month. Day after St. Bridget's. And all that week, not one of them got specific. I went to Declan personally. That's part of this DM exchange, which I'll go through. I don't hide anything. Catholics should never have anything to hide, unless it's private or personal. Of course. But I went to Declan personally. This is the man who spent the most time with me. I've literally lived with the man. Nobody comes close to the amount of time spent with me in person. And the things Declan had, sorry, before I get to that, I went to Declan personally. He had nothing. So he's allowing these general accusations to go up there. He couldn't give me anything. I went to Nicoline about the same thing. She couldn't give me anything. And I knew there was nothing. It was obvious. They're completely incompetent on the faith. You don't make accusations like that. And Richard is the same thing. All week long, up until my excommunication, minor excommunication, which basically means separation. They're still considered your brothers and sisters, still in communion, but separate. Just a quick explanation of that. But all week long, not one of them could get specific with me on what the heck they meant by general accusations, this blank check for sins, this gross sin against justice. Not to mention the gish gab that Richard did, which is a gross sin against justice, and not letting a man defend himself. That's the next big point, is not letting a man defend himself. All week long, not one specific was given. And everybody that's witnessing could literally assume Declan, the man who lives with him, he has some serious issues with TJ. Nicoline, the only other Irish, there's only three of us in Ireland, me, Declan, and Nicoline. And they got specific 3 days after, well, Declan got specific 3 days after my minor excommunication. You know what that's called? That's called hatred of a man's soul. Hatred of a man's soul. How can I amend what I don't know? I'm asking him directly, what do you mean by that? I'm asking Nicoline directly, what do you mean by that? I need to know for my own soul's sake. So let's segue into that. Because, yeah, they got specific after the minor excommunication. Nicoline got specific at the excommunication. And she had no sins. Both of them had no sins. Nicoline lied. She tried to imply I sinned. But it was, even then, it was minor, even if it was true. But it was a lie. And I can prove it's a lie. I prove things. I don't freaking rely on hot air. Now, so let's go into the letter here with Declan. I'll pause this. Okay, so first I should say, so I'm going to get into his my DMs with him after this point. Actually notice, yeah, just notice the likes. Just notice the time there, 15:58. This is much later. I don't have the exact time of this picture, but it's much later than when he posted this. It was quite slow to take off, but once Richard gets on board, and there's a big issue, people get on board and they just kind of mentality. They all jump on board. So, what's kind of sick though about that is, in my exchange with Declan, I'm accusing of lying. Specifically, this line here. I need you to work with me this time. Now, I'm not going to get into it. I know I don't need to either. It just requires too much time to go into that. But I've proven it to him and I've proven it to the group in emails. You need to be in the group to kind of understand why he's lying. Okay. But all you need to know is that I'm accusing him of lying on that specific sentence there. I need you to work. I was working with him and I was sacrificing quite a lot for weeks. Okay. That's a fact. And he's implying that it's gone back to Richard's accusation against me being pushy, things like this. It was easily the other way around. Okay, I'm sacrificing. I'm going along with Declan's plan for weeks. Okay, that I didn't want to occur whatsoever. He's been incredibly manipulative here. He went to Richard as well, as I said, that he would take over he would take charge of this thing, which is fine. At this point in time, another private matter I didn't want to bring up actually in the discussion is I don't want to deal with Declan and I don't want to deal with Matthew. They're the two people we were planning to move in with. There's serious issues with them. They're stoics. Declan is mentally unstable. All right. I mean, he says that of me, but I can prove it. It's really obvious. It's freaking off the scale insanity with Declan. It's devils. He's completely infested with devils. All right. Now that was the first thing I was angry. So I woke up to this. I mean, I'm quite dozy as well because my sleep was bad from the night before naturally. And I think I woke up from a nap and I just seen this and I'm like, whoa, what's going on here? Declan, lad, I tried to calm this down. You're inflaming it. You're supposed to be like my closest brother in Christ. I live with you. Like, and he's just trying to rub it in. Like, it's like there's no need for this whatsoever. I've accepted the admonishments, and I've accepted the penance. All right. It's just it's kind of dirty. Like, and there's a few times Declan does this. He's a complete betrayer, is what it is. He just, it's not just this. There's many things where Declan has completely betrayed me and lied, extremely bad lies. I'll be exposing it in other videos. Can't get into it in this one. But this here is a lie. This is too serious for my salvation with your sinful behavior. This is the guy who lived with me again, and he's making this general accusation. That's calumny. And when he does get specific, after my minor excommunication, which is hatred of a man's soul, he gets specific. The things he says are not sins. So all that drama over nothing. What a disgusting lying bastard. That's all that needs to be said about Declan Power. So they were my two contentions. I woke up to this. I'm like, well, what's going on here? So I message. This is the message, the actual full message. Brother, I apologize to Brother Richard and to the group about being disrespectful. It's important. That's all I was apologizing for. I'm not apologizing for Gish Gallop accusations, which are illegal, or general accusations, blank check for sin. I'm not going to sign your blank check for sin and you can just insert sin here. Freaking bizarre. Regarding moving place, you know full well I was on board with moving to another place for the first 2 weeks when you arrived, and you know the headaches you and Matthew especially put me through for weeks. Last night you did not come to my defence sufficiently, far from it. This is during the Gish Gallop. Declan could have easily defended me that I was being selfish. Declan knows if anybody's not selfish, it's me. It's a fact. And just because he didn't come to my defence, I will be attacking him big time on his inconsiderations and selfishness. Not so much publicly because he wouldn't get it, but more so members of MLR. But I will expose Declan Power, absolutely. In his lies, just disgusting betrayal. Absolutely disgusting betrayal. Last night you did not come to my defence sufficiently, far from it, and I'm very disappointed in you. If I typo here, it's because I was just up from a nap. If you don't, you will answer to God. Remove your public posts and deal with me privately. Naturally. It was a public discussion, brother, and I will answer publicly. I meant what I say. I enjoy living with you. But the only solution. Well, that's very important. I meant what I say. That's the one good thing he said. But he said, I actually can't quote him there what he said that night, but he said that much that he enjoyed living with me. It's like, great. That's not good enough for Declan. I was very considerate and unselfish to sacrifice things for Matthew and you. That's a fact. And you didn't come to my defence sufficiently. That's proven to the people in MLR. Not going into it publicly. But the only solution we'll see what happens. I have to think about how I approach this. I meant what I said when I enjoy living with you, but the only solution is believing what I believe our sinful problems is getting a job, as Richard said. So what does that mean, sinful problems? Getting a job, as Richard said. Well, I've already agreed to that. Now you've reiterated the same penance twice, and I've already agreed to it the first time. Why are you reiterating it? I won't remove the post because it needs to be said. If there's any concerns that need to go to Brother Richard for now, because I believe in good standing points. Do you now? You're a good standing point. Okay. No, must be difficult time praying for you. I don't want to hear it. It wasn't just about living with me. That's just one topic that came up last night. I tried to clear up. But that too, you did not come sufficiently. There was many topics that Declan could have defended me against. He just let it happen, like a complete Judas. You know what happened, and I know what happened regarding Matthew. Richard doesn't. The very obvious gossip, bitching, and never coming to me. I apologize for being disrespectful to Richard. That's it. Everything else I'll deal with privately. So I'm being specific now. I'm just dealing with disrespect. Everything else, whatever this sinful behavior you're talking about, I want to deal with it privately. You're lying to me in the group, and if you do not repent, you'll end up in hell. It's a fact, Declan. It's a fact. Just one example of your line, I need you to work with me with this time. You know, and I know, I was working with you for over 2 weeks. The majority of the time, I was sacrificing for you and Batu. It's a fact. You're lying. You're going to go to hell for that alone, Declan. You're in a good standing point. Get out of here. Next part. As I said, I was working with you moving place for one. I agreed to view Matthew's plan when he scuppered. I'm not even going to discuss this more. Approve the post, stop inflaming, or I'll consider you an obstinate liar to be avoided, and I will know you've absolutely no care for my soul. But the fearful of believing actually, I didn't even realize this until right now that I'm reading through it. In relation to Matthew, yes, he had faults and was correctly admonished to Richard. Now, that sentence doesn't make sense. He had a fault and that was correctly admonished to Richard. He doesn't have a clue what he's talking about here. I sent Richard an issue with that was with Matthew. Okay, he was causing us headaches, right, about this moving place thing. Huge headaches, and Declan had different reasons to myself. Now, I went to Richard after weeks of Matthew not contacting me. I ended up going to Richard, and that's not an admonishment, Declan. That's going to Richard about an issue with somebody. Okay. And Richard did not admonish Matthew, which is another heresy of non-judgmentalism. Sentence is very weird. He had a fault? No, he was sinning. He was sinning on 2 counts against me, insulting my home and shunting me out of my own place, going to everybody but me and never coming to me, the person who had the place open to him. And regarding you, he messed you around with your schedule because he was flip-flopping. You didn't like the flip-flopping. I had other issues too. You didn't like the flip-flopping. Richard tried to paint me like I hate the flip-flopping. Anyway, you guys won't understand this, the public, so I'm going to keep moving on here. And in many judgments I agree with you on. So the thing I just noticed here is he's actually not disagreeing with me whatsoever. So I was working with him on moving place from day one. I agreed to his and Matthew's plan, which he scuppered. So I'm going along with him. I'm sacrificing. Everything I'm saying is true, and he agrees, but he just completely overlooks it, like he actually defended me sufficiently. Just bullshit. I am referring to the general behaviour that Richard had correctly stated last night. What general behaviour? The only solution is to get a job. One example, you're lying. I just reiterated. You need to work with me this time. You are a liar. I'm not going to debate that. It was very clear. You were warned. Regarding getting a job, you were deflecting from your lies. I already agreed to find a job, obviously. To believe that was an issue is not to forgive, obviously. Compound your sins if you choose. General behaviour, I have no clue what that means. It's important. No clue what that means. I was hoping to talk to you, Matthew and Nicola, privately, as it should have been done. For the sake of my soul, as it should have been done. Repeat myself. Granted, you did come to me about issues actually completely unrelated to this, by the way. He was talking about how I should go back to New Mexico and spend some, because Declan and Matthew are going back and forth to New Mexico and they're spending much more time there. But all I can say is, if the way they act is any indication of what you get from New Mexico, I never want to go to New Mexico ever again in my life. Matthew is an absolute spoiled little shit that messed 2 people around severely. And Declan, the complete stoic and betrayer, Judas, or Absalom, as I call him, my spiritual child, Absalom. So when I say here, granted you to come to me with your issues, that was to do with going to New Mexico, and he's like, TJ, you'll fall behind if you don't go back to New Mexico. That's what he was talking about then. It had nothing to do with this. I don't know why I mentioned that. But what did Mother Matthew when this Nicoline come to me? That's not right, and you know that. You're also inflaming and supporting a comment made by Nicoline. You're very disturbed by her behaviour over the last few months. What behaviour is she referring to? I have very little interaction with her. Why didn't she come to me personally? She didn't. Do you think that's right? And that's a fact. She never came to me personally. That wasn't difficult to understand. I can't remember how many times I was here for you. God have mercy on your soul, Declan. Yeah, he go to hell on this alone, right? This is only the start of Declan. The only start. Now, I have to be aware I'm talking to the public here. So I'm addressing his lie. All you need to know as the public is that there's a lie that Declan's committing here. He's not owning up to it, and he's allowing it to be public. And I have a serious issue with that. It's obstinate lying. Okay. And also, I have an issue with the general accusations, making it very clear what are these general accusations. I want to go privately about this. And what does Declan do? He immediately sends it to Richard. Not only does Declan have no charity, he has abysmal communication skills. The guy is literally insane. I know this guy day to day. We talk all the time. Okay. And I'm asking him one to one, and he's clearly taking advantage of the situation. And he sends the message to Richard straight away. This is a private discussion. I want to know, what are these sinful behaviors that you have witnessed? The freaking guy who lived with me. In other words, even more grievous accusation of these just sinful behaviors. It's disgusting behavior. Absolutely disgusting. But my point here is Richard is interpreting that to mean, as I bring up here, let's go back to the Richard comments. So he posts that. He's interpreting that to mean that I did not confess or repent. Sorry. That where is it? My confession was insincere. Where did I contradict my confession? That I disrespected Richard? I didn't whatsoever. That's fact. In fact, I said in the correspondence, I reiterated that I apologized for disrespect twice in that correspondence. And he's condemning Brother Declan instead and trying to force him to commit a sin of omission and commission. I wasn't getting to defend any sinful behavior, as Richard says here. That's a lie. First of all, I'm not getting him to commit a sin of omission or commission or defend sinful behavior. I literally just want to know what this sinful behavior is, Richard. I want to know what this general accusation of sin is from the guy who lived with me. This is so bad. Yeah, it is real bad, Richard. Why do you let that happen? Why are you condemning me for asking what my sins are to a person privately? My confession was clearly just about disrespect, insincere, and that's what I confessed for. It was very plain speak. So this is where everything unravels. Okay, he obviously doesn't care. He wants me to commit the sin of omission and commission by apologizing to Declan. Not only he doesn't want me to investigate what Declan means by his general accusation of sin. He doesn't want me to investigate it, first of all. If he believes that's good, that I don't investigate what Declan believes is sinful, that's heresy. In fact, this kind of thing happens all the time. If you say any sin is good, or if you approve of sin, that's heresy. Sometimes blasphemy. In the case of Richard believing St. Bridget approved of Nicoline's comments. He doesn't want me to look into privately with Declan what my sins are. And he clearly thinks it's good, that's heresy. He wants me to apologize to Declan. In other words, he also wants me to overlook Declan's lie. How could Richard know the extent of the lie? He can't. This is an example. I mean, I could look into more detail than I already am. I don't have all unlimited knowledge, but you just look into the details here. He wants me to accept Declan's lying. He doesn't not know the extent of that lie. This is bonkers. And yeah, it's showing Richard is rushing. This is another trait of Richard's, the bull in the china shop. Horrendous communication. The worst two communicators in the whole group are Richard and Declan. Now, Richard is good in certain aspects of communication, communicating the faith, teaching the faith, fine. With people, he is horrendous. Absolutely horrendous. So I go quiet at this point. I know this guy isn't Catholic. This is absolutely ridiculous. Remember, I've been with them for 5 years. We had the most amazing memories. Sure, I had issues with Richard and I was biting my tongue and all the rest, but I just assumed it was normal because, hey, we're the only people with a true Catholic faith. I just kind of lapped it off as that. It amounted to idolatry, and that is the case with the whole group, is letting Richard off the hook, biting your lip, things like that. I mean, this whole situation, everybody's biting their lip. Anybody with the natural law in their heart is idolizing Richard willingly. Everybody else is idolizing him by default. Just going along with his sins, going along with encouraging Nicoline to sin, never admonishing her, going along with her hysteria. This whole thing blown out of proportion. This drama queen shit. This it's trying to get me to apologize to a guy who's lying about me. My repentance was about disrespect, that proven sin. I'm not going to apologize for general accusations. Not going to happen. Ever. I'm not going to take back. I'm not going to apologize to Declan. I'm not going to take back my accusation of lying to Declan. Ever. Not in a million years. Not for you, Richard. Not for Declan. I know. I'm not going to idolize you. I'm not going to put you above God. That's done now. Now, I left it for 2 days. Everybody jumps on board. I mean, freaking, the facts are facts. It's obvious. Everybody jumps on board. When he gets to 15, it's quite a lot of people. For our group. For their group, should I say. I'm completely quiet. I'm done at this point. TJ, I've not heard anything from you yet, and that's very, very bad sign. If you do not sincerely confess and repent publicly before the Lord's Day, which means by the 7th weekday, then you are under a minor excommunication or banning from the site. If you do not sincerely confess and repent within 6 months after that, you will be under major excommunication for schism and thus no longer will be Catholic. Now, this is very important. Very, very important. If you're preparing a tome to excuse your sin, save yourself the time and more importantly, save me the time, because if you do, I will not read it, nor any of the brothers. No more excuses, evasions, or contradictions from you. First of all, where is the excuses, evasions, and contradictions? None. Never. You've seen the whole thread. It's toxic at this point. It's completely toxic. Now, when he says, because if you try to explain yourself, he won't even read it. He'll only accept me accepting Declan lying. He will only accept me signing Declan's check for blank check for sin. He will only accept that he didn't admonish Nicoline for over 4 or 5 mortal sins. And he will only accept that if I accept his non-judgmentalism. And he will only accept if I don't defend myself, which is against justice. As I said before, if you lie willfully, you hate God. God is truth. If you hate justice, you hate God, who is justice. Gish gallops are against justice. A man cannot defend himself. Catholics should never do that. General accusations are against justice, and a Catholic should never do that. Besides the lack of charity, and I went to them privately. So I've shown you my private message to Declan. I want to know about these mortal sins, or what these sins are, these general accusations. Here's the one to Nicoline. So this is, again, the following day. So this is after the Declan thing. I'm like, okay, now I need to message Nicoline. What does she mean by it, at least? Give me something, lads. Hi, sister, I was wondering, and I have to be super nice with her, because if I did, I know Nicoline's personality at this point. There's something rotten. I call her what she says, anything that comes out of her mouth is just toxic sludge, even if it appears pious. Absolute toxic sludge. And if I said anything that could have been interpreted in any way possible as offensive, or I had to be as passive and simple as possible with her. Okay, so I kept it really simple, because if I didn't, she'd pounce on it, and she'd use it against me. Okay, it's just toxic, pure toxic. There's no Christian charity here whatsoever. Hi, sister. I was wondering what you meant by I'm very disturbed by behavior over the last few months. We didn't have much interaction over the last few months and no arguments to my memory. Can you inform me what your issue was with me for the sake of my soul? Hi, TJ. I'm out for the moment. We'll chat during the week. I'm not going to get into a messaging over back. We will chat during the week. Okay, so she had nothing at that point in time, but maybe she's out. Okay, fair enough. Whenever you're ready, just outline your issues with me. I'm very disturbed by your behavior over the last few months. It's a pretty big statement, and I need to know what I need to know what I need to amend, if there was something, for the sake of my own salvation. Basic Christian charity. Do you care for my soul or not, Nikolai? Do you have sins against me or not? I have no intention going back and over. See, she tries to. This is the dirty shit. Oh, over and back. She's trying to imply that I'll be just going back and forward, back and forward, back and forward. Maybe it might be necessary to go back and forward, but I need to know what you mean by general sinful behavior, Nicolai. Don't be making excuses. But she's trying to imply, oh, we'll just have to go back and forward. Shut up, you lying. I need to know what I need to amend, Nicolai. Do you not understand the Catholic faith? Basic 101 Catholicism. We have to avoid sin, and you have sin against me, so I need to know what it is. Do you not care for my soul? I have no intention going back and over and back, but I do deserve to know what you meant. Absolutely, I do deserve. Well said, TJ. If I don't say so myself, I mean, it's just normal statements that I'm making here, and she can't give me anything. Now, notice she messages at 3:10. It's 40 minutes later. The whole time she's actually texting, so she's actually completely flustered at this point. I have screen captures. I'll show you that. Why not? She wasn't out whatsoever. Nobody types for 40 minutes and they're out. She spent 40 minutes making this message here. Okay, I'll show you the proof that she's texting for 40 minutes. No, I'm not texting because there was a lot now that needs to be spoken about, and I'm not alone in seeing your behavior, brother. Oh, again with the general sinful behavior. Okay, why am I surprised? So we will chat during the week. Stay close to Jesus, Mary, and Joseph, and ask God. Oh, yeah. To show you what you need to change and mend your ways now, along with Brother Richard, requires from you also. There's a new beginning now. Oh, this freak off. Get away from me, Nicolai. Absolutely get away. Run a mile from me. Can't be specific about someone's sins. You can just accuse them generally in the freaking chat site publicly. You just scumbaggy. No other word for it. Now I'm going to pause it here and just prove that she was not out. Give me a second. Okay, so I can't actually locate. Anyway, she was texting every 5 minutes. It was just like Nicolai is typing. Nicolai is typing for 40 minutes. I have them somewhere. I have so much evidence. I have it. It's lost. Oh man. Anyway, I went to her personally, privately, asked her what she meant by these general accusations. She had nothing. Okay. She only got specific after my excommunication. That's a hatred of a man's soul. It's all you need to know about Nicolai. Same thing with Declan. It's all you need to know about Declan. Same thing with Richard. It's all you need to know about Richard. Pure hatred. The devils are a muck. It's plainly proven at this point in time to anybody who's a complete neutral. Now, this is one of the harder things to prove because, again, you don't know the people. I'm talking to the public now. You don't know the people. You could assume that maybe I'm missing something. That's fine. I get that. But I have to deal with this incident because this is the reason why I left. Okay. I was quiet all week long after Richard said this, and he wouldn't listen to anything else. In other words, he will not let me defend myself. And also he's preventing me from attacking him. Because as I said up here, very important, I will DM you after the Lord's Day. I'm going to admonish him on the day after the Lord's Day. I'm going to let things calm down. I'm not hysterical drama queen like Richard. I'm going to wait till after the Lord's Day. Plus, they would have conflated that with my sin, and they would have said, oh, he's just making excuses, all that shit. So he wasn't willing to listen to a defense whatsoever. The fact that none of them could come to me the whole week before I was minor excommunicated. Onlookers, as I'm writing here, onlookers couldn't possibly know what they meant, could only guess, and even if the accusers referred to the accusations in the illegal gish gallop Richard made, some people were not in attendance. And just as I had to apologise publicly twice for those not in attendance, the same goes for public accusations, compounding the illegality. All they could see was general open-ended accusations, and this remained like that for the whole week until my minor excommunication. Declan came forward 3 days later. What an abomination! What a mockery of charity and justice! And to compound the injustice, specifics about the general accusations were only given after the minor excommunication. This is so evil, I would call it hatred of a man's soul. Okay. And when Richard doesn't let me defend myself, he considers me his Catholic brother. And all this is hysteria. All of it. The whole thing since Nicoline's comment is all hysteria. I apologised that night. He didn't ask me to apologise a second time. He only reacted to a freaking hysterical woman. He was online an hour before. People are reacting to my posts. It was clearly a done and dusted issue. Over the top. It was over the top by Nicoline. And he doesn't let me defend myself. His own Catholic brother. Translation for this is, TJ is not allowed to defend himself against general open-ended accusations that Nicoline, Declan and Richard made, and he must accept Declan's lie without contest or investigation, something Richard should have done as a normal human being, investigate the lie. I mean, at this point, there's nothing to be said. This man, Richard Ibranyi, believes he himself is above the faith. This is to do with the idolatry. That nothing I can say or other than to accept Declan's lying and to put him above the faith, other than among all other sins committed by Richard and everyone through omission. I remained silent that week, contemplating and hoping that people would stand up for truth, justice, and plain, simple Christian charity. Nothing. They were all cowards, non-judgmental heretics, and idolaters of Richard Ibranyi. Now, I shown Richard, I private messaged Richard, let me get to that, let me get that up. So, here's the message between myself and Richard. I'd waited all week for somebody to get back to me, all the rest. Somebody give me some specifics, nothing. Now, if you look here, it's the 10th day, so I was minor excommunicated on the 8th at midnight. And, oh well, there's more lies to do with that. Well, this video's gone on not long enough here now, but let's just finish up with this. So I knew Richard wasn't going to respond to me. As he said, I couldn't defend myself, and that he'd delete my messages, all the rest. He completely idolizes himself. He wasn't willing to listen. I mean, even if you're the worst sinner in the world, the worst heretic, that person can still admonish you. Okay? This is completely hysterical, drama queen shite. But anyway, I wanted to start addressing his sins, and I'm doing it one by one. I'm starting at the very start, and I'm not ignoring my disrespect. It's already apologized for, done and dusted. Now, but I wanted to do things topic by topic in order. It's very important. So I want to warn you out of charity for your soul. You are guilty of mortal sins, as are the group. Your soul is in grave danger. Now I want to deal with my sins and faults too, but it should be done in patience and charity. Even if you believe in an obstinate sinner, I can still show you your sins. It can only help you to listen. Note on the accusation against me, nowhere was I asked to repent of those specific sins mentioned in your minor excommunication. Not one of them. And the sin, so Richard got specific in the minor excommunication letter or document. Disgusting. And the sin I apologise for, disrespect during the talk, was not contradicted in my correspondence with Declan. As Richard said, he believed that my apology was insincere. No, it wasn't. I literally bolstered the apology in my correspondence with Declan. You're insane, Richard. There was general accusations on the chat site by you, Nikolai, and Declan. But when dealing with sin, it is critical to be specific, especially when there is public admonishment. As if you do not, you're now sinning against the eighth commandment. It is also Catholic duty to come to the person about specific sins privately. This was not done, which is against charity. Those who gave you information, Declan and Nikolai, when I asked them to give me specifics, they did not give me one. This is sin against charity. This is basic stuff, Richard. This guy's supposed to be a leader of the Catholic Church. Supposed to be. Complete disregard of justice, lying left, right, and centre. I mean, I haven't even started on his lies. I haven't started. Just wait for that one. This is just the overview. It gives you an idea of what happened in the beginning. My side of the story with proof. I'm not omitting anything. I'm showing you all the information. Richard literally omits key parts of dialogues between people. Regardless of what I'm guilty of, I'm still capable of showing you your mortal sins and heresies, whether I'm guilty or not. This must be done step by step in order, as it can get messy naturally, like when somebody gish gallops you and they can't defend themselves. I just ask for patience and charity, especially as your soul is in grave danger. The first sin committed in recent events. So this is just in order, simple. During the talk about the house, at the very start, I said I have private things about the situation I wanted to talk to you privately with you. Finances, living situation. You pushed regardless. And I ended up talking about my private stuff. Even if I was full of crap and it wasn't private, it must be taken on someone's word that you did not push or induce a person to talk more about the topic. But you did. This is the deadly sin of provocation. Do you accept this? It goes without saying, you being guilty of provocation does not mean I was not guilty of disrespect. But it does highlight what provocation is a deadly sin. He goes, it's like a spoiled child here now. I deleted it. You know, it's like, that's idiotic, first of all. A leader of the Catholic Church is not going to ignore a message from somebody who could be a mortal enemy. You know, it's kind of basic common sense, but he deleted it. I was like, you can't delete other messages, so that's a lie. You can't do that on Discord, not in private messages. I know you've seen it, it's all proven. It also proves you believe a man, sinful or not, cannot expose your sins or heresies. That is heresy, and it is idolization, Richard. You put yourself over the faith. Okay? It's all glaringly obvious at this point to me. This man idolizes himself. The whole group idolizes him. Not one of them admonished him for any of those sins I mentioned. Basic Catholic instinct. And so, for example, the video I'll have up next, or maybe before, I'm not sure which one I'll put in order, but the video on Richard's lie on the late incident, that conclusively proves, I've already proven it really, how bad-willed he is, how much he's lying. But that video in particular, without a shadow of a doubt, proves he's an obstinate liar on grievous matter, and he knows that I knew that he was lying. Therefore, it's scandal, because if he believed he's in the true church, it's as if to say, I don't want you back. I'm going to lie about you. And he does that on multiple occasions. So if they've seen that, or sorry, they're commanded to delete the messages, to not look into it. He believes he's above the faith. End of story. We were all idolaters and not one of us were Catholic. All our memberships were invalid. Fact. I am starting up the true Catholic Church in the end times. None of this idolatry shite. None of this bombastic bull in a china shop stuff. It'll be simple. It'll be simplified. It's not hard to save your soul. Do the minimum requirements, fulfill your vocation. My main duty is to make sure there's nothing like this happens ever again. There's ways to snuff out sins like as I said before, sins like lying, calumny, detraction, gossip, envy, um, exaggeration, these things are pervasive, as opposed to sins like stealing or murder or fornication, which are generally localized, contained. These other sins, again, envy, murder, or envy, um, gossiping, lying, calumny, detraction, they're like viruses. They get into the church. They spread throughout. Thankfully, God gives me an eye for detail. I can sniff a lie a mile away. It would never happen. Hopefully, never happen under my watch. Now, I think that's long enough. The whole purpose of this video is just to give my side of the story on the incident why I left MLR. Okay. I'm the first member to do so. They do have the true faith. I'll be referring to his works quite often. But he doesn't own those works. Richard doesn't own the Catholic faith. God does. Every good thing we do is God's work. And so Richard fell away. Actually, he was never Catholic to begin with. Never. Because he did this many times in the past. I've seen it firsthand. Don't investigate this person or that person. All the rest. Now, there is more to go through. For example, I want to show you Declan's letter. Maybe I should finish on Declan's letter because so all you need to know about me and the other group and this condemnation letter, so that's the real serious Gish Gallop. That's the Gish Gallop of all Gish Gallops. All you need to know first of all is the people who knew me day to day. That's Declan. Then Ryan got Nicoline to a lesser extent. More so Declan and Ryan got. Nicoline, and I throw Matthew in there as well. Everybody else would have seen me for a few days max. And they have nothing. Just minor things. Like Ryan had a few substantial things that I already apologized for, but the non-substantial stuff was literally coffee breaks, waiting for me to get coffees that I asked for permission for. And again, as I said, he's talking about timekeeping. The GOTS are the worst case scenario. Nobody in MLR can disagree with me that Ryan and the GOTS are late not every week, very often on the Lord's Day. It's very serious, and Richard never admonished him. Once again, non-judgmental heresy. Flattery. Moving the goalposts. Rules apply to one person but not another. But let's look at the late incident with Richard. So that's the one that I exposed Richard lying conclusively. Absolutely conclusively. And once you see that, everything he says now goes out the window. And that's me defending myself. I'm not getting into every nitty-gritty detail. There's no need to. I'm on the offensive. I'm going to run Richard into the ground if he doesn't repent. It's already started. As I've shown here, I went to him. He has no interest in addressing his sins. And even if he had a refutation for me on this particular topic, I'm saying that there's more things I need to get into. I just want to do patience and charity. Clearly, I'm a reasonable person. Refute me if, okay, fine. Let's say for Big Iron, he refutes me. There's other things, Richard. He doesn't care. He doesn't care about his own soul. He therefore does not care about anybody else's soul. If he can't look after himself, how can he look after others? And in that video about the late incidents, not only do I prove he's lying left, right, and centre, I also admonish him for that. I'm giving him every chance I possibly can. As I said before, I see Declan as the Absalom. I'm referring to King David here. I've always had a devotion to King David. That's the picture of King David there. Very relatable saint. It's just odd that Declan looks like Absalom in the movie David. It's quite funny. I might actually post that video because you can see when I go through the Declan letter. He sent me a letter 3 days after my minor excommunication. He's talking about things he's experienced. Okay, so he said sinful behavior before. He's going for it at this point in time, and he's trying to bring me back, which is it's a disgusting letter. There's no sins in it. He's talking about staying up late. That's not a sin. He's talking about smoking cigarettes. That's not a sin. He's talking about playing poker. That's not a sin. For those who know, I've been playing poker for over 10 years, played millions of hands. I'm an expert in sniffing out lies, and I have attention to detail like no other. I'm the perfect person to expose Richard, and that's key because people in the past wouldn't have had this information. And on top of all that, I record things. There'll be much shit on Richard's face, let's just say. The late incident will be a big one. Very big. I just so happened to have a recording. Philip McCabe recorded the whole thing. But the Declan letter, yeah. So poker, what else did he say? Not going out. That's not a sin, Declan. What else did he say? Can't even remember. They're not sins. Okay? Not sins whatsoever. Actually, Richard omitted it because he was obviously embarrassed. He didn't include it in his condemnation. In fact, I will post a Declan letter. I will post that. I'll make another video for that. I made one for the group. I'm going to make a new one for just a Declan letter. Going at Declan pretty hard. Nicoline, she's easy to. Uh, I'm not sure how to deal with Nicoline. As far as I'm concerned with the women, it's just Richard is not protecting them, okay? But she has went at me pretty hard and she has been lying, so I'm going to go back at her publicly also. She's in a cult at the end of the day. She needs to get out of it. I'm the one looking after her soul. And she's attacking me with vicious lies. Vicious. Anyway, again, that other video on the late incident is key because once you see Richard boldly lying willfully and obstinately, because I warned him just like I warned him here, it's obstinate. And anybody that's in MLR sees that, they have to avoid him immediately. I've already proven non-judgmentalism. That means he's a heretic and he's not repentant. That means he's an obstinate heretic. He's a non-judgmental heretic. And he's done it with Ryan. And he's done it with Matthew as well. Not judgmental heretic. Fact. He idolizes himself. He doesn't care whatsoever that I have many sins to expose of his. Doesn't care. Doesn't care that he's dragging his whole congregation to hell. Now I am the new leader and the church will start at Pentecost. Once all this shit is out of the way, I'm just dealing with all this now, then it's done and it's behind me, hopefully. But one of the main themes now is I'll be exposing Richard because it's key. He's the closest to the faith. It'll be me as in charge. It'll be a lot more toned down. The Irish are now leading the charge. We get people. We understand basic communication skills. So if anybody wants to contact me, that's my new YouTube channel. I'll be posting these videos on St. Patrick's Day. Lost sheep of Jesus. We are lost sheep. We have no priest. Okay? I'm in charge until such occasion when we do get a priest. And even when we do get a priest, we have to put him under scrutiny for a while. Make sure he accepts all the dogmas. Every one of them. Priests have a much higher standard. Once he accepts all the dogmas, and I'm happy with him, he's now in charge. Until then, we're just lost sheep. We don't have a shepherd. But we have to have a leader. That's a fact. If you're not familiar with that, you need to learn about the laws of Hezekiah. How in all situations, God, it's a basic dogma that there's authority in every situation. Whether it's a family, workplace, there has to be a hierarchical order. It's not a democracy. And I'm the first person to expose Richard, that it was a member. It just fell into my lap, guys. I'm not seeking power. In fact, it's a lot of it's probably going to be a lot of hassle for me. I would like to keep things simple, stick to my evangelization, which is what I like. But that'll be my focus, is evangelization and steering away from Richard. A message told those who fell away, or sorry, not fell away, but left Richard. I want to hear your stories because I know Richard has lied left, right, and center. I'll only accept you also if you accept all the dogmas. But let's work on that. It's different now. I will not put anybody above the faith. So go to The Lost Sheep of Jesus on YouTube. I'll be posting on social media. I will be on All Out Attack on St. Patrick's Day. And my email there again, if anybody wants to contact me for the hope to save your immortal soul, you need to be with me. I'm the only Catholic left. I consider myself a catechumen up until Pentecost Day. Other than that, there's no Catholics in the world. See my introduction video on that. My first video will be just an introduction to the Lost Sheep of Jesus, this lay order, me as a lay leader. I'll be going into the details why we're the last Catholics, these lost sheep in these last days that Jesus will search out and rescue. Through Jesus, Mary, and Joseph. Amen.